Evelyn has been such a joy. She just brings so much energy, warmth, and a real passion for helping others succeed. And, I especially love the strategies that she shares to help you declutter and, really cut through the noise, whether it be in your mindset or even in your own homes, so that you can become aligned in all aspects of your life and really start focusing on the things that matter the most. She is amazing, and I know that anyone who works with her is going to feel exactly the same.
Oh, awesome. This is so great. Okay. So today is going to be another day of some great value that I'm going to give to you. Our topic is thriving without compromising. And what does that really look like, right? This is a huge one. And so I'm just going to share a little bit of how this topic even came about. But I do want to congratulate you for coming back again. I can't believe it's day 4. This is the Swap the Waste, Fuel the Change challenge. And we are on day 4. Just the fact that you're showing up again says a lot about you. It tells your brain that you can be trusted. And so I know I shared this yesterday, but it's so true. Every time you keep your commitment to yourself, right? You registered for this and you actually do it. You build trust, confidence, and really momentum for success. You become a person who keeps her word, a person of her word, right? And it begins with self-trust. Like you have to tell yourself, like, yeah, I can keep commitments. Okay, so our topic today is thriving without compromise. So faith and business, right? My audience, a lot of you are entrepreneurs. Like you actually got into my ecosystem simply because you either loved a product that I was sharing with you, right? Something was very transformational. It was a solution that gave you what you were looking for at that time, or you own a business and you're trying to navigate what that looks like because you're also faith driven. And so, like, how do you keep your everything aligned, right? We wear so many hats all the time as women. And we put on our home hat, we put on our our, like, okay, take care of our kids hat. Okay, now I gotta make sure that everybody's cleaned and fed and out the door for school, right? Like we and then we do our work, yes, outside the home. Like we have so many hats and we're trying to fulfill all the responsibilities that we have. And it's like, how in the world do I even fit one more thing, right? And so what God's calling us to do is that he doesn't call us to fit one more thing. He doesn't. And so we're going to share that and what that looks like. I'm actually going to share what that looks like. So when it comes to our business, when it comes to the work that God's given us and the gifts that he's given us, he wants us to be able to use it, right? And it's a ministry to be able to actually have and create income for your family, whether you're the breadwinner or not, right? Or your supporter. Like that's huge. That's important, right? So it's like, how in the world does God call us to serve? And how in the world does God call us to, serve at church, serve here, serve with our business? How does that look like? And isn't that adding one more thing? And God's like, no, no, no. That's where the alignment comes in. That's where God's calling us. It's this and it's not one or the other. So body, mind, and home, this past year has been my story of aligning all those things. And I'm super excited because I've been able to create this playlist for you, 30-day playlist, where you can actually implement that every single day. I've compiled all of what the Lord has taught me this year, in aligning my body, in aligning my home, and um, my mind, all with Jesus in the center. So everything else that God calls me to do, it doesn't feel like more. It now feels aligned and it comes out of overflow and abundance. And so this challenge, this is a huge undertaking. And when God downloaded this for me, I was like, there's no way I can do one more thing. And he's like, I'm not asking you to do one more thing. I'm asking you to give, to trust me so that you can give and out of abundance and out of overflow of that joy, the hope that God has given us that we talked about day one, right? And through that alignment comes, he gives us this joy, and that's where he's having us to give. So 12 years ago, I started social selling. I started doing it in person presentations. I would go to people's home and just share practical ways to be able to clean in a new way, clean their homes, to be able to simplify their lives, to be able to help them live cleaner and safer lives for their family, right? So I simplified their home cleaning routine. And I was hustling. I was growing my business. I had three littles when I first started, eventually added one more beautiful son. So four. And I was juggling the mom responsibilities, homeschooling as well. And, and then, doing this business. And I remember when my husband asked me, he's like, okay, so what's your vision for this? Like, what are you wanting to get out of this? And for me, honestly, I just wanted a little cash to be able to create a homeschool room. And that's how I got started. And so he's like, okay, so after you do this, after you achieve just a little money to homeschool, like, what do you want to do next? Like, what comes after that? And I'm like, well, I also see me being able to use this as ministry. I can actually go and get out once a month and do in-home, presentations. And I can pray over the homes and the families and that the Lord puts around me. And I just can interact with other women. I have adult conversations, right? It gives James some time to be able to hang out with the little ones. And yeah, I think it would be really healthy. And so he was like, okay, all right, so let's do this. He wanted to kind of get an idea of what it was going to look like. And, the Lord blessed it. The Lord blessed it that time. I was able to promote 3 times, 3 levels with my company within that short amount of time. And what happened though is over the years, I began growing on Facebook because I loved to encourage other people. I love to follow other people along and their journey and just be able to, connect with them. It was always a form of connection for me. One thing that I always realized about myself is that I always was careful not to offend others. Always. And that is a great, that's a great character trait to have, honestly. But I was a little overboard. I was more of like, I don't want to, step on anybody's toes. So my personality was honestly a little bit of a people pleaser, right? It doesn't sound very pretty, as opposed to how God was teaching me to be a God pleaser. What does that look like? So, lots of things have transpired through that. But in January of 2024, right? So now this is like 10 years ago. Well, where am I? 11 years ago, right? God began tugging at my heart something. And this was what it was. He said, go and fulfill the Great Commission on social media. Oh, let me bring this down. Hold on. Okay, so he was like, hey, I want you to go and fulfill the Great Commission on social media. And I was like, oh gosh, I have no idea what that looks like. That's completely new. And he's like, no, I'm giving you a platform. And a lot of people, and I want you to go and fulfill the the Great Commission on social media. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting because I have no idea what that means, what that looks like. And so I just shared it with my pastor one day, and he was like, hey, I suggest that you speak to the women's director at our church. And I love her dearly. She has been a part of my spiritual growth the past 10 years of my life. And she's been an encourager. So she's awesome. Love her dearly. But the thought of actually working with other women scared the bejeebies out of me. even though that's actually what I was doing by, going from home to home and having these interactions, but it was almost like I was able to keep a guard up. And there was a limit of how close I allowed somebody to come into my life. If I had to become vulnerable at any point, then I would put up a wall. And so the Lord began revealing to me that there was a lot of things that he needed to unpack for me. And so at that time, I blatantly told God, no, 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 I'm not doing this. Whatever you have, planned and whatever you're thinking about, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you no. And I love how God works, and he is very gentle, and he began whispering in my heart, to the point where I could not resist him anymore. And I didn't want to resist him, but I didn't realize that I just kept like saying, no, God, giving him a reason, why I couldn't do that. And God was just like, no, actually you can. I've equipped you. I have, just trust me in this. I finally said yes. So forward, that was January 2024, August of 2024. So like 8 months later, I finally say yes to God. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm saying yes to. I just know I'm saying yes. It gets even funnier. My social media, as I'm applying these strategies and trying to do the thing, but still not wanting to step on toes, God has such a sense of humor, and he allows that my Facebook account get completely hacked and completely shut down to a point where I never got it back. So I had to restart a new Facebook account from zero people. Tell me, what in the world, Lord? You just called me to fulfill the Great Commission, share, advance talk to people about the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? And like, how in the world am I supposed to do that with social media being zero? Facebook, like 0 people, 0 followers. And he's like, okay, there we go. Now you can't give me any excuse, because I kept saying, oh, but I know all those people and they know me and they know where I've come from. Like, how am I supposed to just change things? And he's like, okay, you don't know them anymore. You don't know them anymore. I'm going to help you out. So he gives me a complete new, brand new, tell me that's not a sense of humor, right? That God has. So I was like, okay, now I really have to apply these strategies that I'm learning. Okay. And I'm like, there's no excuse. There is no excuse. What God was teaching me was that he wasn't calling me to brand my product or my company for that matter. He was actually calling me to brand him at work in me. And that was really hard. That meant that I had to become vulnerable and be able to share, like, here is how God is working in my life. He always wanted me to point to him, because the point is to help other people be able to have a different perspective about the things that they're going on in life, right? Our lives, everything. If we begin focusing on all the negative and all the craziness that's going on in our nation, oh my goodness, we completely can get depressed. I mean, we will just tank emotionally because it's heavy, because it's hard, right? What God was calling me to do was to rise above that and to change my perspective, to be able to point out God's goodness to all who were on social media, so that we can start turning our focus on God's fingerprints over our lives. And that's what he was calling me to do. That's what he meant when he said, go and share the Great Commission through social media, on social media, right? He wanted me to change that perspective of my glass is halfway empty to my glass is halfway full. And that means that I was potentially going to step on people's toes. But he was sharing me, speak the truth, but speak it in love. So there's a difference, I was so afraid to step on people's toes, but it wasn't. It was like, hey, Share the truth, but share it in love. Share it in love. And so since then, I invested over $20,000 in just coaching and mentorship, learning skills of how this would look like, the tools that now I get to pour into you. And it is a ministry. That is money that I've had to fork out to be able to fulfill this calling and purpose in my life, right? Right? So but God provides. It's so cool how God provides. And that's where he helped me to create Align and Anchoring, and virtual a virtual assistant agency, starting that up, and a cleaning agency for families who are, with they're not able to use toxic cleaners because either they're undergoing chemo, or have upper respiratory issues like asthma in their families, or just the elderly. They're just not able to clean. So the Lord has helped me to do that, to be able to fund this ministry, right? So the Lord always provides. He gives you ideas and new things and new skills that I've been able to do that with. And I think that that's so cool. So before we dive in, I want to remind you that I have opened up Aligned and Anchored mentorship and discipleship coaching program. This is where faith, wellness, home alignment all meet. I do have my 30-day detox playlist out there. If you want to get started that way, just comment playlist. It helps you to align for 30 days, exactly kind of start building anchoring new habits in with something that you're already doing. So he's not asking you to do either or to add any more to your plate. He's just asking you to align all those areas, right? So that everything else that you do comes out of abundance and overflow. And so that's what that playlist is about. I encourage you, comment playlist, and I'll get that link to you. I encourage you to start doing this. It's going to bring you so much joy, because just from the alignment, starting your day off with Christ, it's 4 to 6 days. It's 4 to 6 minutes, but the playlist is for 30 days. So it's just a good way to start learning, okay, if I did want to align all the hats in my life, what would that look like? What exactly would that look like? And so it's a great way to get started, okay? If you're just like finding yourself, no, like there's some limiting beliefs there, there's something that's keeping you stuck and from doing the thing, then there's some issues there that there's some mind work there that needs to be had, that we need to unpack. And that's where I encourage you to take a look into the 4-week mentorship and discipleship coaching program. Just that for 4 weeks is $297. If you just want to add support to your, like, okay, I really want to add the support for my body as I work on my body and do those exercises and things like that. That's what the bioactive peptides are for. I will add 30-day supply of both of these. I talked about it yesterday, but this is the one that will curb cravings, so that you can become more mindful of what you're eating and fueling your body with. It also helps get rid of the that stubborn fat, belly fat around the, this visceral fat around the belly area specifically, but it does work for all the other areas in your life, in your body, like the visceral fat all over your body. And then this is what I like to add to my water. It helps build lean muscle. It flavors my water, but I also end up drinking more water that way. Okay, and then I will also add a bag of the Norwex laundry detergent. So that is $497 if we include all of those, and it still gives you that 4-week, like, let's work together to unpack those the limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck, right? We want to unpack them and we want to help you move forward. If you feel like you need that, we can add that. So definitely, if you're curious, drop a line in the chat and I'll message you. Okay, so let's get started, okay? I do want to share with you what this playlist looks like real quick. The playlist is like this. There's 30 days of it, and each one, okay, so you would start with day 1, but this is just day 13. What you would do is, if you can tell, this one is 5 minutes, okay? So all of them are between 4 and 5 minutes. We start out with just a little devotional, and I reference it here, right? And then I give you a home task. So something that you can tackle at home that day, all right, just to align that your home as well. And this would be wash your throw blankets or pillow covers, okay? And they all have, like, if you're looking for the simplicity of how to clean your home, so like you would need laundry detergent for this. I do have, if you fill this out, you can get Norwex samples this way. So one of them is the laundry detergent. Okay, so there's links that you can reference here. And then what I do is I give you what you would pick. You get to pick for that day whatever you want to eat to fuel your body, right? So I give you some protein ideas that you get to pick, a vegetable idea you get to pick, a starch that you get to pick, and fruit, and you want to add some kind of healthy fat to it too. So avocado is also a healthy fat, so I just give you that idea. If you want to plan ahead, like your grocery list, here is here is that link for you to be able to pull it up and get an idea of, like, okay, I want to plan it out, right? So this is very helpful. It's a very helpful. And then I also give you your hydration goal right there that you want to hydrate. And then I give you the workouts. I have gone out, and this is what I have implemented, and I've put it all together so that I can give you a beginner, a moderate, and an advanced level. So depending on your energy or how many minutes you want to put in that day, here's a 20-minute, maybe moderate. This one's 30 minutes, okay? So you can decide, okay, based on your time or your energy level, where you want to tackle that day, okay? So it's very practical. It's just my way to be able to get you into momentum and start moving. And again, you can do that self-paced, right? You can do that on your own. It's out there. Just comment playlist and I'll get that out to you, okay? All right. So I'm going to give you 5. Okay, I'm going to give you, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 ways, okay, that that you can thrive. 5 ways that you can thrive without compromising. Okay, so you can write this. Now, this is going to come straight from the Bible. It comes from the book of Daniel, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And just to give you a little bit of context, okay, just to tell you a little bit of the story. This was a story about 3 teenagers, actually 4 teenagers in the book of Daniel. And young Daniel and then his friends, they were actually called Hananiah, Michael, and Azariah. And you can tell their names are completely different, right? Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And what had happened is Babylon had conquered the land that they lived in, and they lived in Jerusalem. And so these 4 teenagers were taken captive to Babylon, and they had to serve King Nebuchadnezzar. They had to serve in his palace. And so what they did, what King Nebuchadnezzar required them to do, who's very smart, is he had their names changed. He was like, if we can get the and Daniel and Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, they came from a very wealthy part of Jerusalem, okay, high class. And so what King Nebuchadnezzar, he was so smart. He was like, if we can take the high class from Jerusalem, bring them into my palace, change their names, change their culture, integrate them with our, teach them our literature, our language, and give them our food, then eventually they would compromise, right, on their faith, and then they would start doing serving our gods and just being integrated into the Babylonian world, right? And so they were taken captive, and Daniel, the Bible says that he resolved. He resolved. And that means to make a decision ahead of time. And so what he did is he resolved to not defile himself with royal food or wine. So he was like, I can learn their literature. My name can even be changed, right? In fact, their names were Daniel became Belshazzar, and then the other three became Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And you probably recognize those names, right? But comment the word resolve if you've ever in your mind made a decision ahead of time of what you were going to do or not to do, right? Resolve. Okay. So he had made this decision ahead of time. He wasn't going to defile himself. He would learn their literature. He would, read their books. He would learn their language. He would even be okay with changing their names. But when it came to eating the royal food and the wine, he made a decision that he was going to honor God, and he was going to stay committed to God, and he would not defile himself. And so he boldly asked, hey, would it be okay that I just eat vegetables and drink water for 10 days? And then you can come and check us, and I bet you we're going to be the strongest, and we're going to be the most handsome, and we're going to be the most fit, because they had resolved not to compromise. They were going to thrive, but they were not going to compromise on that one thing. And the reason I always wondered, like, why is it that they couldn't eat their food? I'm like, they're getting food from like this royal palace, and it's amazing. Have you ever wondered that? Well, it was because in order to eat that food, what they would do is they would sacrifice the animals to the Babylonian gods first. So you could see, yeah, that would be defiling themselves, right? It kind of goes against it goes against one of the commandments, the 10 commandments, that thou shalt not have other idols or put things above the Lord, right? Excuse me for a second. And so by them eating the food that was just sacrificed to other gods, then yeah, that was putting other things above God, right? Because God had specifically said not to drink blood from these, from the animals, that, and not to honor other idols above their God. Okay. So that was the thing with that. And so lesson there is that sometimes God calls us to choose obedience over comfort. And for me, it was uncomfortable to go on social media and start doing something different and start like ruffling the waters, and making changes when everybody knew me. And so God was like, okay, that's okay. I see your heart. I see your desire to obey, and I hear your yes. So I'm going to make this a little simple for you. We're going to start with a clean slate. I'm going to give you a new audience to work with. Oh my God. Right? And sometimes when things are uncomfortable, it's because it's the brain. It's kind of like the same brain that says that when you're at the edge of, a cliff, like your brain says, oh my goodness, that is dangerous. You need to back away because you're going to fall. Every time we do something new, the brain has the exact same response. Whoa, that's new. Don't do that. That's scary. No, you're going to die. Right? And so every time we do something new, just recognize that we are going to feel discomfort because it's new. it's the brain doing its job to keep us safe, and it's the exact same reaction. Okay, kind of like the same reaction as when you touch a stove that's been hot and you go like this. It's the same reaction that occurs in your brain when you go to do something that's new, and you get those butterfly feelings when you're speaking in public, or when you go to do something new and you're just like, oh, I feel a little uncomfortable. It's the exact same reaction that occurs in the brain. Okay, so that's normal. That's just part of being human. But God gives you favor and strength when you do it out of obedience So that's the lesson there. All right. We move on to chapter 2 of Daniel. And what God actually ends up using Daniel to interpret the king's dreams. He was having these horrible dreams. He had no idea what it was, and his advisors were like, "Oh well, Daniel, you've kind of kept him for a while. If you remember, he was the one that." Was thrown into the well, actually, he was the one thrown into the lion's den, wasn't it? Wasn't that this? Yeah, he was the one thrown into the lion's den. Do you remember him? And that, and he's like, he can interpret these dreams for you, and so he's like, oh, this is awesome. Okay, so God used it. God used David, his obedience, to be able to elevate him. So God elevates us in our business when we thrive without compromising, right? When we obey and God blesses that, he will elevate us. Okay. All right. So that was that time in Daniel 3. Here's where I want to get to. King Nebuchadnezzar had built this 90-foot gold statue, and he had demanded that everyone worship it. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he refused. They refused. And furious, the king was like, oh my goodness, no, you can't do that, right? Like, you're deliberately just being disrespectful. And so he throws them into the blazing fire. But what was so cool is when King Nebuchadnezzar looked inside, he saw 4 men walking unharmed, and he had only thrown in 3. The fourth one looked like the son of gods. Okay, it was actually God in person, like he was there. It's actually a preview of when the Lord comes, like when Jesus is born and he comes. Like, that's what you call, there's a theology name for that, and I can't remember what it is, but anyway, it was God in there with them. And so when they came out, they didn't even smell like smoke, right? Like that. How cool is that? They had been untouched. Like, the fire never even touched them. They didn't even smell like smoke. And so the king declared that, oh my goodness, okay, their God just totally defended them, and nobody is allowed to speak against their God. Like, their God's got it together. So God doesn't, he might not always keep us from the fire. Like, he'll keep us in a place of maybe discomfort sometimes for our good, to build character. And just to remember, to live is death, but to die is Christ. So everything that we might be going through right now, whether it's in our business, maybe it's discouragement, maybe it's feeling, down, depressed. There's just a lot of things going on in our life, right? Maybe it's sickness or illness or family member, taking care of family members. Like, maybe our business is not thriving or going the way that we had expected, right? When those things happen, we have to remember it's an invitation, an opportunity for us to change, to look for God's goodness in it. Okay. And it might not be in that situation, but you can see God's goodness everywhere. And when we start seeing evidence of that, by being grateful, like, grateful, thank you, God, thank you so much for the trees that create shade for me, so that maybe the sun is not directly hitting me while I'm doing my work, right? Like, thank you. And you start saying thank you. What it ends up doing for you is it changes your perspective, and you start seeing God's goodness. Your eyes begins to fix on him, and you draw more of his goodness. So he might not keep you from the fire, but he's always walking with us through it. And when we feel pressured, like, to meet deadlines or something like that, like, wow, he can give us the power to do that, to meet those deadlines, right? If we can just plug in and focus on him. All right. So here is the principles that I want to help you. First, live by inner principles, not outside pressure. So again, Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, like, they were okay learning the Babylonians' language, their culture, even reading their books, right? But they refused to eat the food that was sacrificed to pagan gods. So don't compromise on what directly goes against God. That's how you thrive. All right. 2, you want to live according to the word and not the world. The culture says to fit in, God says to stand apart. What does that look like? Well, it looks like having courage and confidence and commitment. So if you say you're going to do something, you're going to show up on social media, then do it. Do it. Do it. That you do not want to compromise on that, because it's only going to create evidence for yourself that you can be self-trusted. That's what you want your clients and your customers to know about you, right? That you're going to take their work seriously, right? That you're not just going to leave them hanging. Nobody wants that. Okay, number 3, you want to live according to the promises of God, not the protection of men. So obviously they knew that God could deliver them. Yeah. Even if he didn't, they would not bow down to this statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had built. So know that God will never leave you, and he will honor your obedience. If you choose him, he will honor you. And oh my goodness, Christ was the perfect example. I was just reading that scripture this morning. Can't think of it off my head. It was like my memory verse, but something just clicked for me. Okay. And then 4, live with conviction and not convenience. So it's easier to go with the flow. Yes. But thriving comes when we choose what's right and not necessarily what's easy, right? I mean, we learned that from them. It wasn't easy to, everybody else is bowing down, right? It wasn't easy to be the only ones that don't. That's not easy. But just know that thriving comes when we choose what's right and not always easy. So that's good. That's good, okay? And then 5, live for eternity and not just earth. Always keep kingdom, like God's kingdom and heaven, and the day that he will come, like keep that at the forefront. Everything that you do, if you do your business with that focus, then he will provide, he will make you successful, right? Your business will thrive, because it will point back to God and give him glory, right? And ultimately, like, your goal is Christ, right? Right? And that's why, God's word says that, wide is the way to destruction, but narrow is the way to heaven, to everlasting life. And you only could achieve that through the Father, through the Son, Christ, right? The work that he did. So just keep eternity in perspective. Compromise might bring short-term discomfort, but obedience, it's going to bring eternal reward, and it's going to build your character in the meantime, right? You're going to become stronger. Okay. All right. So our homework for today, you guys, is faith and purpose. So you're going to go on this sheet of paper, this one right here. You're going to go on this one, and let me share that screen really quick with you. Okay, right here. So we are on day 4. So the homework here is to write down, like, what's really draining you? What waste am I currently tolerating? Whether it's physical, emotional, oh no, and spiritual. No, that's not it. Hold on. Okay, it's this one. So I kind of have it all wrong, but where do I feel called to lead right now? Like, where do I feel called to lead? Actually, oh my goodness. Well, I think we're gonna keep with this one. So we're gonna do homework day 4. What's really draining you? So after everything that you've been hearing this week, you at this point will be able to identify the waste that you are currently tolerating. Is it physical, emotional, spiritual? Just like write it down, right? What is the waste that you're currently tolerating? And then where are you leaking the most energy daily? Like, where is it going? And then what would change if you had more energy and clarity? All right. And then post that, complete the journal prompts, post it in the comments. You can get 30 points on the leaderboard that way. Okay. All right, you guys, that's it for today. Tomorrow is going to be powerful. It's the last day, turning your mess into your message. And what does that look like? So this is where you'll be able to write down your story, reflect on your journey, and then see how God might be calling you to lead others through it. So I'm super excited about that. Okay. All right. Until next time, stay aligned and anchored with Jesus at the center. Bye for now.